to our continuing live team coverage of Hurricane Michael. That is still a Category 4 hurricane, even though it is well inland over the central Florida panhandle. As of 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern time, maximum sustained winds are at 140 miles per hour. Category 4 pressure is still 927 millibars. Every inch of land that it crosses, it continues to set new records in terms of low pressure, strong winds, and the types of warnings that we have. Moving north-northeast at 15 miles per hour, conditions improving slowly at the coast, but they continue to get much worse as you go inland. And look at the visible imagery. You can see how the eye has stayed very well defined in its trek over the central panhandle, and it's now about to cross Interstate 10 and will very likely make it into southwestern Georgia, maybe even clip southeastern Alabama, perhaps still as a major hurricane. Amazing. But it's still not done at the coast. But look at what it is doing inland. We still have this extreme wind warning in effect for portions of Bay, Calhoun, and Washington counties until 3:15 p.m. Central Time or 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. The Apalachicola River there divides Central and Eastern Time. So Bristol and Blountstown, you're still getting strong hurricane force winds. But now we've got another extreme wind warning for portions of Decatur, Jackson, and Seminole counties. And this includes, of course, southwestern Georgia, just west of Bainbridge. And if we zoom in a little bit more, you can see some of the towns that we're talking about. So here is Interstate 10. So we've got an extreme wind warning, essentially telling people to take shelter like you would for a tornado. Lowest level, most interior room. I'd put a helmet on, cover yourself with a mattress, get in the bathtub, whatever you need to do to protect yourself just like you would from a tornado. And this is happening along and north of Interstate 10 and Highway 90 that goes through Chattahoochee, goes through Mariana, Cottondale over to Chipley, and some of the towns that could be experiencing this are a little bit farther north at Greenwood and Malone, Florida, and up in Steam Mill along the border. Chattahoochee, Florida, on the eastern side of the eye wall, about to get the worst of it. So here are some of the timings. So if you're up in Steam Mill, you've got until about 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. So get to your safe place right now. And despite where the extreme wind warnings are, we've had gusts to Cottondale, 89, Mariana, 102 miles an hour, and Mike Bettis in Apalachicola. You know, we have seen gusts over 100 miles an hour in Apalachicola. We've also seen it inland. My goodness.
Yeah, it is really, really amazing. I think maybe also the automated station Apalachicola may have failed with the winds, but really intense there for a period of about 3 hours or so. The winds have backed off a little bit now with the eye of the hurricane almost due north of us at this point, but the water is still up, all right? Let's show you what's going on here, Apalachicola Bay. I think the scene is pretty telling in and of itself. We had a van that's parked in the parking lot here. This is Bay Avenue and 6th Street. Van is underwater now. We have a boat that's sunk as well. Several of the boats out here have been pulled from their moorings. There's actually one that was pushed up inland as well. Some of them that are just kind of loosely tied at this point, and a couple of them that are compromised as well. So we've had some issues here. Now the good news is this: we've had record-setting surge here in Apalachicola, and you see where the water is now. Here's the debris line. So the water's come back several feet, all right? This is where the surge came to. This was the high point, all right? So that's good news. The problem is with those high winds that we had as well, look at the trees here. Look at how these trees have just been decimated. If they're not completely compromised, the tops of them have been sheared off. Maybe smaller trees, all the leaves are completely gone from them. These beautiful oaks, and they're everywhere here in Apalachicola. And some of them have gone down as well. I'm going to bring you over here to the playground. This is Battery Park over here, and I'll show you. And the water came up just to Battery Park. Here again is the debris line as far as the storm surge came, and you see all kinds of junk in here that'll need to be cleaned up. But isn't this amazing that it stopped right here at the playground, right? That's where all the debris line set up for right there. Even palms that are really, really sturdy against the wind. There's palms in that debris as well. Then you work your way over here. You got to see this big live oak that's over here. A lot of folks are out now. The winds have calmed down some, and just taking a look around, taking pictures this afternoon. How about this, right? Well, when you have these big trees that are wind catchers, and you get big gusts, which we had today, they go down. And we had for a time there really, really strong southerly winds. They've changed a bit now, more out of the west than out of the south. And then eventually we think as the entire system pulls away, they'll calm dramatically through the day tomorrow. But that's the situation. I just think this van over here, tells the story, doesn't it? Or maybe even the boat over here that you can barely see that's sunk as well. So that's the story here in Apalachicola. Things that we've seen, minor structural damage. We saw a shed that was knocked down, a little bit of roof damage to some homes here, but a lot of trees. A lot of trees down, a lot of branches that are down. Power was out well before noon today. So we made without power for some time, but I haven't seen any significant structural damage per se. Maybe we're just far enough away from the eye where the winds weren't strong enough for that. The causeway, by the way, do want to mention that. So there's US 98 bridge, all right? The bridge is fine. But the causeway that connects over to East Point and Carabel, where it comes down and it's low and it's basically a strip of land with pavement on top of it, that's been compromised, that's been overwashed, so there's water over top of it and you can't get over to those places right now. Let's head over to Panama City. Alex Wilson's there. My goodness, Alex, that western eye wall coming right over Panama. We're going to get to Alex here in just a moment. Let's get into Liana and get an update on what we currently know with this storm.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. And we actually have a Pentagon briefing happening right now. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, members of the Pentagon Press Corps, for your continued efforts to inform the public about the ongoing situation and the danger posed by Hurricane Michael. Given the high winds, storm surge, and flash flooding Hurricane Michael is now bringing it to the Florida area, I echo FEMA Administrator Brock Long's comments about how crucial it is for the residents and the visitors in the area to listen to and follow the instructions of the local, state, and tribal officials. I also want to take this opportunity to extend my appreciation to the first responders at local, state, and federal levels. The region affected by Michael has tremendous capability that has been on display since well before Michael made landfall and continues right now as Michael does make landfall. And last time we were here, nearly a month ago, I explained how, in accordance with the National Response Framework, along with FEMA, state, governors, National Guard, DoD was responding to Hurricane Florence. U.S. Northern Command task forces were anticipating requirements surrounding the storm and proactively positioning forces to respond immediately across the full spectrum of DoD capabilities, at every level, by air, in coastal and flooded areas, and on the ground. And while every storm is different, and Michael presents challenges that were quite different than Florence, we are once again surrounding the storm with military capability that we can surge forward in support of FEMA, state, and local officials. And at the local level, the Secretary of Defense is given authority for life-saving and life-sustaining actions to make DoD